Okay, so today we have Alexis. I can't even remember how long we've been working together, Alexis, but we're gonna jump into all those details. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let you go ahead and introduce yourself. So feel free to
Okay.
introduce yourself.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Alexis. I go by Alexis Marie, Marie being my middle name. I am located in St. Louis, Missouri, but I am from Los Angeles, California. And the artwork that I make is pretty much femininity artwork with flowers, ocean. Just I'm really connected to nature for some reason, so I always do nature artwork. And yeah, this is the type of artwork that I make. I do paint guys, but I don't paint guys at the same time. My, I just kind of paint whatever I feel. So yeah, that's pretty much that.
I can tell you now, as we go through this interview, everybody's gonna want to see your artwork, and it's
I know.
freaking phenomenal. So let me ask you this: if those who want to go check it out, where can they find you? What's your Instagram?
Okay, so my Instagram is art.leximarie. So I'll repeat again, it's art.leximarie. And yeah, that's where you'll find me all over Instagram.
Yep. And with that being said, once they see it, like I mentioned, it's really, really beautiful work and it's very unique work. So how long have you been an artist?
Ooh, that's a difficult question because for me, my art journey has been so off and on. I've been painting and drawing since I was about five, I would say. But I recently started taking painting seriously about a year ago, and I literally just decided to be a professional artist about 6 months ago. So my art journey is kind of all over the place, but I started off being a realism artist. I was painting, or not painting, drawing whatever I could think of. Like if I wanted to draw a doorknob, I would do that. If I wanted to draw portraits, I would do that. And I felt really drawn to portraits though, and that's what I decided to pursue my art career in. So yeah, my art journey has been kind of all over the place. Like
Yeah. And with that being said, I feel like your style is pretty much dialed in at this point. Would you say you only been creating seriously for about the last year? So how long it took you to really dial in your style?
It was honestly just seeing what I did repeatedly. Like I know that I am attracted to painting the ocean or just looking at the ocean. I know I'm a big nature lover, so I just found myself like being around nature a bunch. And that's kind of when I discovered it. And I noticed a pattern of me painting with pinks and blues for whatever reason. And I was just like, okay, I love nature. I love pinks and blues. I'm gonna put them together, see what happens. I've always loved flowers, so I would just like include that as well, and that was kind of the journey. But also, my art style and things like that really cater to finding myself and like finding love for myself, and then I
Yeah.
that's where the femininity came from, and that's where like all the colors and choices that I have came from.
At the moment, are you creating artwork full time?
Yes, yes, I am.
And just to give people some insight, it's a side question. How old are you?
I am 23.
So 23 years old, creating artwork full time. As a 23 full time artist, how much do your artwork cost? Like, what do prices start, and then how expensive can it get?
So I'm actually raising my prices right now because I have been getting a lot of demand right now. I literally sold out of my paintings, so I
You don't
have to
have
like
no paintings at the moment.
no paintings, and I'm working on them right now. Through this program, I sold out all my paintings. So um, before when I started the program, I was selling my paintings for around 2,000. Recently, I sold one for 4,300, and then I'm like it's gonna probably go up because the demand right now is higher. That it's like I have to raise my prices.
So what's the goal? Where you want pricing to be at once you do have new work available?
Definitely around 7K, 5K to 7K. That's the goal. And then yeah, that's like the great ballpark for me where I'm just like, oh, that would be incredible.
Yeah. Did you see yourself like in the past selling works for five, seven
Oh my
thousand per piece?
gosh. No. Not at all. I was just I mean, when I started the program, I was scared to even say 1,800, you know. I was kind of like, that's a lot. That's a lot of money. I don't know anybody at the time personally that was putting that kind of money into artwork, so I was just like that was a lot of money for me. But now it's like I'm talking to so many people. I feel like you can fall into the art trap as well of feeling like, oh, my prices are too high or my prices are too low. But when I started to see that there was people that could afford it and that I felt like that was the right price for my artwork, I was like, oh yeah, I'm asking for 5K for this one.
No, you. So tell me this. You went from in the last, you say about a year now. in that year you went from, okay, I want to
Mhm.
create art full time, up until today. Now you like, I need to be raising my prices 5 to 7 thousand, right? With that being said,
Ooh,
before I get
yeah,
to this question,
definitely.
how long have you been with Artist Rise? Like, when did we start working together?
We started, I believe it was either, I think it was late January, but I started like actually implementing the program, I would say March. It was literally 2 days before my birthday actually when I like hit all my goals for that month. And yeah, but I was studying the training from late January to about March, to the beginning of
Uh,
March.
I don't know why I thought we was working together for like a year at this point. So it's only been
No,
like
that's
6 months.
crazy. Isn't it crazy? Like it's insane because so much has happened from that time span that I'm just kind of like mind blown.
Okay, so we're talking about 6 month journey, right? Since joining
hmm
the training.
hmm
Before joining, what do you feel is the biggest thing you were struggling with?
Oh my gosh, I still struggle with it now, actually, and it would be vulnerability. That is the biggest part of the whole program in the first place, is just being able to put yourself through those situations that you may not be comfortable with. That's been my biggest challenge. So I'm still dealing with it now, but I feel like the more I do it, the easier it is.
Yeah,
Definitely just vulnerability in the first place. Even sharing my story or like talking about like personal things, all of that is scary. So I feel like that's a great benefit of the program too. It's just really, it helps you find yourself, but also it helps get you out your comfort zone, which is really good.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I still struggle with that. Fingers crossed to get over that.
I think that's every artist because that's one of the biggest things when it comes to growing your art career. Just being able to be personal with people and being able to share your story with others, what a lot of
Yeah,
artists struggle with, you know?
yeah,
So, but with that being said, I very rarely speak about being vulnerable before artists join a training. So, what
yeah.
made you decide, you know what, I think I'm going to join this training?
Oh my gosh, it's kind of crazy because I was taking an art program that I did not take seriously. I literally paid for it and didn't really pursue it at all. But I was in a program and it was like Milan Art Institute. I was in it for like a month, and then I noticed one of the artists were in your program, and I saw her ad on my Instagram because I followed her on a different account. It wasn't my art account; it was a different account, and I was like, $20,000. She made that much? I was like, how did she do that? So I clicked the link and I saw your face and I was just like reading all this different stuff. I admit though, I'm a big researcher. So like when I found out, I was like, okay, I'm checking out his website. I'm seeing who else has been in the program. I messaged her personally and I messaged actually two people that were in that program were in yours, and I messaged both of them. It was Brianna and it was just Andrea. I messaged both of them, and I was like, you know what? I would see, these ads and stuff. Is it true? Like, oh, I originally thought that you were using her picture too. And I was like, are you in this program? She was like, yeah, I love this program. So that's how I found you. And I was just like looking you up on Reddit and just any platform that I could. I found your YouTube, just doing all my research. And I was like, I wasn't even pursuing art at the time. I just knew that I wanted to paint and that I wanted to draw. I didn't even know where it was going to go. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to try it. And yeah, I scheduled a meeting with you, and the rest was history.
And at that point, as you mentioned, you was already in a program, right?
Yes,
So what
yes.
made you decide, even though I'm already in a program, I'm gonna take my career a bit more serious and I'm gonna join this program instead?
Man, just seeing people, because like there's a big starving artist trope going around where it's like these artists are starving and everything is hard and things like that. So seeing a familiar face, someone that I knew doing the program, and to see them being so successful from it was very inspiring for me. And I was just like, that is amazing. Like if they can do it, I know I can do it. I had faith. And I was just like, I'm gonna go ahead and go for it, figure it out. And I also feel like in the program that I was in, it's a year program. I felt like I had already been drawing for a long time, that I felt like I had the skills and I was already, I was taking like just, I don't know, just kind of in a journey of finding myself, right? And I felt like I had the skills. I felt like it was just time. Like, it just felt like it was time, and I was ready. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna jump for it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna see what happens. And I'm really confident in my ability to take leaps sometimes because it's like, if I see something and I feel like it's credible, which it was obviously, then I'm like, I'm gonna go for it. So that was pretty much how it all happened. It was full circle for me, honestly.
Yeah. And were you nervous on that initial call when it came to you like
Oh my
joining
gosh,
the team?
yes. Yes, I was so nervous. I was, to be honest, I was in the phone call. I was trying to see if there were certain cues that I could pick up or whether or not it sounded like a scam. I was like, how is he gonna talk? Like, is it gonna be, because you know how some phone operators, like, they talk in a sketchy way and you're just kind of
Yeah.
like, hmm. But with our call, I felt comfortable and I was just like, okay, this feels pretty legit to me. So hey, I'm all for it.
So what made you decide I'm all for it? Like on that initial call, what was about it that made you tell yourself, I'm gonna get started, I'm gonna do it?
Having people in the program that I knew, basically, that I talked to, they didn't feel like they were trying to sell me anything. It felt genuine because we were sending like voice memos back and forth. So the whole thing felt genuine. They were talking about their experience and how much they made and like their ability to connect with other people, like connect with art lovers in general.
Yeah.
And that whole full circle thing, that it was amazing. Like, hearing their results was amazing. Hearing how they started to where they are now was amazing and inspiring. So I was like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like, I was like, I want that for myself. I was all for it. I had previous mentors before, so I understood the process for having a mentor. So I was like, yeah, why not? And like I said, the other experiences weren't 100% great. So I was like, this one sounds really good. I want to take it. And I was also worried about the prices raising because I saw that you were just having so much success in the program. I was like, you know what? I'm going to jump on this now before I lose this opportunity.
The crazy thing, we actually had a price increase.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. See, I was like, I'm going to do this now. Like, I have to do this now.
yep.
Mhm.
So at that point, you're like, I did my research. Interestingly, you actually talked to a few of the artists who was in a training, which I'm
Yes.
just finding out about. And then you're like, okay, I'm in. On that initial call, I always like to ask this question. What was your initial goal?
To just go for it. Like I said, I started when I didn't really have a style. I didn't really know what my path was. I just knew that I felt like I wanted to figure it out along the way, which I did, which I'm grateful for. But I did not have a style. So my goal was to just A, find myself in the program, but B, I really felt like art was just that path that no matter what I did, it always came back to art, right? Like, somehow, some way, it would just always come back to art. Like, at one point I was pursuing real estate, and then I started designing real estate websites and it came back to art, where I had to like design icons, or I would just like do other things. I don't know, let's just say I wanted to do YouTube at one point, and then I would have people reach out to me about logos, and I was designing logos. So it just always came back to art. So my goal was to just see if it would work out for me, because I hadn't always felt connected to art, but I wanted to just really go for it because everybody around me has been telling me to pursue art forever.
Yeah.
So when it happened and I had success from it, everybody was like, duh. And then with you, I was like, of course. So yeah, the goal was to find myself. The goal was to just really go for it, figure it out, knowing that art is the path that everybody saw for me, that I felt like, okay, this might really be my thing. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna just do it.
Yeah. What
Mhm.
about financially? On that
Oh, of
initial call,
course.
like the very first call we had in January, how
Oh
much
my
did you want
gosh,
to earn per month?
yeah, that's crazy compared to what it is now
Don't
versus that
speak on it
first
now.
call.
Don't-
Yeah.
We're gonna save that. But just going back to that very first initial call, you're still young. By that time, young Lexi
Yeah.
was like, you know what? I'm gonna figure it out along the way, but I'm about to join this train. And I
Mhm.
always ask how much you want to earn per month. What was your
Yeah.
goal?
It was 1.5 thousand. That was my goal. I said,
So your initial goal was $1,500 a month.
yep. Yeah, that's crazy.
What did I say?
I think you said to at least aim for 3,000. I think you
Yeah.
said 3 to 5,000, and I did not. But it's crazy to think about that now. Like, oh my gosh.
Fast forward to today.
Mm-hmm.
What's your goal per month? How much you want to earn?
20,000. That's the goal I've been saying. Because well, I'm not gonna talk about that yet, but that 20,000 is definitely my goal. Between 10 to 20,000.
Yeah. And with your initial goal being from 1,500, right?
Mm-hmm.
To now being 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
What changed? Like, what made you decide, I think I can earn 20,000 per month?
It was seeing how much I connected to people, the type of artwork that I do. I was hearing all types of stories that was just like, it helped me figure out myself too, but also it was like just so amazing to hear the interpretations different people had. And it was like, I was getting a lot of demand for the pieces that I had because it was, how can I explain it? It was like Black Afro art at the same time, but I was
Yeah.
painting all different races, but the most popular ones was like the Black Afro art. And it was, talking to people that are like, it's amazing to see their hair like in like our hair in the
Yeah.
paintings. And I was just connecting with all types of people, older people, younger people, people with kids, husbands, like just all these different people. And I was like, okay, I can do this. There's a demand for it. I'm going to continue to do it. And I just went for it. And then I was honestly shocked by the results that I had, but I know you said to wait on that. I was shocked on the results. And I was just kind of like, okay, I definitely need to up my vision in general and just to see where it goes, because it was crazy. Like, the results are crazy.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
So tell me this. What's the most you made in a single month selling your artwork?
I would say 18,000 in a month. And that was actually, it was this month where I made the first 18,000. So that's the most I've made,
So
which
you
is why
actually
I said
almost
20,000 as my goal.
so you almost hit your goal this month.
Yes, yes, and it was crazy. I mean, honestly, I was slightly overwhelmed because so much was happening. Like I said, I had like 6 originals, 5 or 6 originals, and I sold them all, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh." And so that was insane for me. But yeah, definitely, I my goal now is to continue having months like this. That's the goal.
So consistency.
Exactly. Hmm.
Now the thing is, it's really cool because you're like, holy shit! I just sold out all my artwork, made 18,000 a single month.
Yes.
Now what you're gonna do because you don't have any more artwork to sell? Are you selling
No,
it?
it's crazy. um, I don't know. It's kind of crazy to even think about because for me, I am swamped by a lot of things right now. A lot of the money that I made obviously was kind of 50-50. 50% of it came from my paintings and then 50% of it came from prints. So it was like I'm like shipping out a lot of prints and I have commissions now as well. So it's like trying to find the time for it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm working on originals now. Slowly but surely I'm working on them.
Okay.
It's just kind of like, balancing and finding the right schedule. So it's kind of crazy too in that way because when all of that happened, I have a bunch of collectors like joining my email list. They're waiting for artwork. And I'm just like, okay, I feel like when I make artwork, I'll be set up for it and I'll be okay. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on there.
It's crazy that you're like so much could happen in just 6 months. For
Yeah.
example, I talked to a lot of young artists. I
Mhm.
just talked to her like last week, and she was saying it's her goal to be a full-time artist, but she's gonna go to art school first and try to
Yeah.
finish in 4 years, and then in the next 4 years, hopefully she could. I'm like, that's 8 years going by,
Oh my gosh,
and
yes.
you're like from zero to $18,000 months in 6 months,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
crazy.
And my prices back then compared to now is insane too. Like I don't know if you want me to touch base on that.
Speaking of that, what's the most expensive you sold a piece for?
4.3 thousand. That's the most expensive so far.
So $4,300 for one piece.
Yep. Hmm.
What was your pricings at first before joining?
So this is kind of really sad. It's actually really sad. I was at one point I was doing like tattoo designs. It wasn't really like tattoos. It was more of like doing a realistic drawing,
Yeah.
and people would get them tattooed. But at the time it was like $40. That's That's crazy to think about. It was $40. I think my highest being $50.
And that was the most expensive you sold at that time?
Yes, for pieces, yeah. Website design was a little bit different, but that's obviously nowhere
Right,
related to what I'm doing now. So
right.
yeah,
So you went from $50 to now 4,000. Well, technically 5 to 7,000 because you're like when this newer come out, pricing going up.
yes, yes, exactly. That's why I said it's insane for me to even. Wow, like so much has happened. It's wild.
Do you feel successful at this point? I feel like a lot of artists who are crushing it get like this little imposter syndrome that I noticed artists been
Oh
dealing
yes,
with.
definitely. It comes and goes. Like I'll feel successful when the sale happens, and then like 2 days later, I'm like, oh my gosh, a sale just happened. Wait, how do I? So it definitely comes and goes. Imposter syndrome is real. I feel like my biggest journey has been to not self sabotage, because it's really easy to do that when you get into imposter syndrome. And I feel like we as artists have a lot of times where we're just like, do I deserve this? Like, how did this happen? Like the sale comes in, you're excited, and then you're like, oh my gosh, they're expecting a painting. Am I gonna ship this right? Am I gonna like make sure it's gonna get there safely? There's a whole lot of questions that begin to pop up. So yeah, it never goes away. I don't think regardless of how much success anybody has, it'll ever go away. It's just something that you learn to deal with in a way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now being at this point of being a successful artist, especially at your age, what would you say is the biggest lesson you learned over these last 6 months?
Learning that fear isn't always like it's not something that's always there to protect you. A lot of times our body gets familiar with a certain pattern, especially when it comes to mindset. So for me, half of my like most of my success has been pushing past that fear. I feel like when we move out of a mindset of dealing with that fear, our body kind of goes into fight or flight mode. That happens to me all the time. I go into fight or flight mode, and then I end up not wanting to do the things that I know will push me past the point of like basically reaching for my goals, right? It'll help me get to my goals. So it's definitely just pushing past the fear, knowing that you're on the right path. Trusting yourself is a big one. Like definitely trusting yourself, and just going for it. I know I keep saying that, but that's really all it is. It's just like
Yeah.
going for it. Like just yeah, just go for it.
It's funny you say that because I genuinely believe that's the biggest thing artists struggle with. It really comes down to this level of like self doubt.
Yeah, definitely.
And I see so many artists make decisions that hold them back just because they're just nervous or hesitant or have that fear, like you just mentioned.
Yeah. I'm dealing with that now actually, because the success that I had, it's like I want to do it again. Obviously, do exactly what brought me the success in the first place. But then you get in your head. You tend to get in your head. I think being in the program is great because you have so many supportive people. Like we're like a family basically. So anytime I feel a certain feeling, I know someone else has felt it before me, and we're able like to talk about it. And they give great advice, and it's just yeah, I definitely think that having that background with you is important because you can get really stuck in your head. Like,
Yeah.
just, yeah.
No, I agree. And speaking of that, let's say Lexi today had to
Mhm.
give Lexi 6 months ago advice. If you had to start all over, but you have the mindset you have now, what advice would you give yourself?
Don't be so scared. I mean, there's so many people all around you. They've gone through the same feelings, they've had the same experiences. Like, how you feel is normal. Being scared to be vulnerable, it's like, it feels like a false sense of protection almost because you're like, the less I share, the better I feel. But in reality, like, a lot of amazing things happened once I started sharing my story and once I started being more outgoing with that. So just like, don't be so scared. It's gonna be okay. Also, not being afraid to take risks because that's a big thing, and just being an artist, taking risks, not being afraid to talk to people, and just yeah, that's pretty much all I would say for that.
Yeah. And with that being said, you mentioned a lot about just like not being scared and being able to take risks, right? So With that being said, in the next, so I asked about what advice should you give yourself for the last 6 months. In
Hmm.
the next 6 months, so we're talking about by December, what would you like to see yourself?
As far as financial or just mindset?
Both.
Okay, so financial, that's always like such a big thing, right? For me, I would like to see, my goals are pretty big. I would like to see at least 50,000, like making that much, and just
Let's
really making
pause.
artwork.
Give me a
Okay.
second. Now you say 50,000. What's 50,000? Like 50,000 in your savings, 50,000 per month, 50, like what do you
Oh,
mean when
per
you say
month.
per
Per
month
month.
50,000? So we
Yeah.
talking, what is that? 600,000 a year.
That
Okay.
would be insane. Six figures, basically, like just hitting that point.
Okay. You can continue. Mindset.
So mindset, just being more open, like just, how can I explain it? So for me, I want to expand my art career. Like I don't want to just paint on paintings. Like I would hope to do murals. I would hope to like travel and do art in different places. Just being able to put myself out there, going to art fairs, things like that. So not being too comfortable would be a big one, because I know that comfortability is a big struggle sometimes, because when you see something, it like your mind gets used to it. Your mind is used to patterns, right? So that's how the brain kind of works. Just not being afraid to take those risks, take those jumps, knowing that, like I said, I have a team behind me. Like we're all kind of like little warriors together, and just working together. But yeah, just for mindset, just going for it. I always say going for it. Doing that, and just taking risks is a big one for me. Vulnerability is a big one for me too, being more vulnerable.
Yeah. You brought up being vulnerable multiple times on this call.
Yes, that's the big one.
So how important for those listening in would you say it is to share your story
I
with your
think
audience?
I think it's the most important. Like before any other skill, I think it's the most important, because that is how people connect to you. Where people are sharing their stories, they're alone being vulnerable, right? And that's how everybody just kind of really connects. And that's where the sales come from, as well as when you connect to people. So sharing your story is really important. People want to know who you are as an artist. They want to know what you're thinking about, what your process is like. And when you're afraid to be vulnerable, you're not letting them in, which can cause like trust issues and a whole bunch of other things that you don't want.
Yeah,
You want to feel open, and you want people to feel comfortable in your presence, and you want people to feel like, oh yeah, that person's warm, or like I trust them. I talked to them, I had great conversations with them. And when you are not vulnerable, you're really holding yourself back from your big like potential in general.
yeah.
Hmm.
If you had to give advice to the artist that's watching this, let's say
Hmm.
they were you were 6 months ago,
Hmm.
what advice would you give them?
I would say, honestly, for me, a big part of my entire journey has been finding myself, because for me, and that could sound like obviously cliche, right? But if you're not able to pinpoint like what emotions you have and where they come from, it's hard to be, like I said, it's hard to be open. It's hard to really create artwork that you feel connected to, and you can fall into other traps for that. So I would say don't be afraid to take the time to really like invest in yourself, to listen to yourself, to open yourself up to other people that also are there to help you, because you can end up holding yourself back, and the goal is to meet your goals, right? That's the big goal. So it's just when you are opening yourself up and you're being available, not just to other people but to yourself, then I would say you're golden. That would be my advice.
That's spot on. A fun fact, even for me and my team, when we hire new people,
Hmm.
we don't care about nothing they say in their interviews. The only thing we focus on is their level of self awareness.
Exactly. Yeah.
I always say if you can become really, really, really aware of where you're at, though I feel like those are the most intelligent people who really
Yeah.
understands themselves and where they at, and more importantly, understand where they want to go.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree 1,000%. That's been a big thing, because even now, like us as artists, we're still trying to find ourselves, and that's obviously going to be a journey on journeys. But it's definitely the most important, because you can't, like, I don't understand being able to sell your art if people aren't connecting to you. They want to feel like they know you, they want to feel like they can trust you, they want to feel like they relate to you. That's the biggest thing too, is relating to people. So when you know yourself, you're able to find your people, you're able to find your voice, you're able to, the opportunities kind of find you at the same time. So that would be the biggest thing for sure.
No, yeah. And if you had to give advice to that artist who are like, you know what, I'm actually joining Artist Rise. I want to go through that process. And they're day one inside the training. What advice would you give to them?
Take it seriously. Because if you're not taking it seriously, I feel like it's easy to go into like analysis paralysis, basically, where it's like you're analyzing things over and over again, and you're trying to figure out how to do it perfectly. You're trying to figure out like what's the best strategy and things like that. And I feel like you'll get the most experience just jumping into it. Like if you just sit back and watch everybody, there's always new things to learn, there's always new ways to grow, so it's never gonna end with lessons. Like even now, I with the success that I have, I'm still learning. You still tend to feel like a beginner sometimes, because there's so many things that happen, there's so many different ways it can happen. So just jump into it. Don't be paralyzed by analyzing everything. And yeah, because it's very easy to fall into that trap. And then also, don't feel discouraged either, because everybody at some point started, right? We all started selling our art. A lot of us have started not making a lot of money selling our art at all. So I would say that that would be the biggest thing, is don't feel afraid, and to know that everybody else has been on the same path, the same journey. You may see the big success, but you don't really see what goes behind it and the work that goes behind it. So yeah, just jump in. Know that the training is there to help you. It's designed by a bunch of analytics and just other people's success. So it's pretty much straightforward. Like just follow it, take it seriously.
Now, I want to ask you if you had to give me someone that worked with me for 6 months at this
Hmm.
point, half a year, I say my artist know me better than anyone at this point.
Hmm.
What advice would you give me?
Okay, the advice I would give you, I would say I love the Q&As. I love how everything is set up, because we're all able to come in and ask questions. The advice I would give you, oh, that's kind of a difficult question. The advice I would give you is, to I would say reach out to everybody individually when you can. Obviously, you have a lot of students, so that's gonna take a while. But just take a day to like reply to everybody if you can. Like I said, it's a lot of people, and just see what a common issue is among all of us, because sometimes we all have questions, and sometimes it could be the same question, but we don't have the answer to it yet. So I feel like you could find a lot of the information there that would help with like improving the program and improving everybody's experience. So yeah, I would just say I said a day, but you have a
I
lot.
think it'll take a little longer than a day.
Yeah.
If you want me to reach out to everybody,
Yeah,
it'll
that's gonna
probably
be a
take a
while.
bit longer than a day.
It's gonna take a while for sure. But I would say dedicate some time to that, because we usually all have the same questions and we're asking each other, and sometimes we don't know. So that would be my biggest advice.
I want you. And what's the end goal for Lexi? Let's say 3 years from now, you're crushing it,
Hmm.
you're like a old lady. What's that 3 year goal?
With my little pencils, like. My goal is to, I mean, this is, it's, I don't even know how to explain it. I guess my goal would be to be comfortable, knowing that I am making consistent sales to where I'm not necessarily worried about where the next sale is going to come from. I feel like that's probably something that's common though, regardless of how many
Yeah.
sales you make. But my goal would just to be comfortable, to make sure that I am like on a roll, like never stopping, just constantly pumping out artwork, constantly like meeting new people, constantly traveling, like having big old places, like having my art in every state probably would be a big goal for me too, and just being a renowned artist.
If you had to describe a renowned artist, how would you describe that in your words?
I don't want everybody to know me. But you know how renowned artists, like, they are very, like, they, people just know them, people are able to recognize their art and go like, oh, I know who that is. Someone that has a great reputation of like just making great artwork consistently, and also who is successful, and just someone that is just doing their thing, honestly, like going to galleries, having successful galleries. There are artists everywhere, like that would be my definition of a renowned artist. But like I said, I'm still a private person sometimes. So
So you want to
the idea of
be
everyone.
known, but just not too known.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I'm with you. And I think it's a really, really great interview. If you had to leave everyone with any last words, what would those words be?
My words would be to don't self sabotage. It's very, very easy. It's you won't even realize when you do it, actually, right? Because it can show up in different ways. It can show up by procrastination. It could show up in just not even like knowing that you really want to do something but convincing yourself otherwise on why you shouldn't. Like, let's just say you have a goal to, I don't know, paint something today, right? And you're like, oh, but I don't have the right paintbrushes, or I don't have the right art supplies, or I'm going to wait until I save up, for a big old canvas. And really, just, it's very, very easy to fall into that trap and to fall into that mindset of not going forward and not meeting your goals, because a lot of this is meeting your goals, right? Like, it's there for you, but you also have to take the steps that'll get you there. So I would say, like, just really, really listen to yourself, listen to your mind that you're having on these certain moments, because it will try to talk you out of it if you're not careful. And it's very, very easy to be like, oh yeah, you're right, like, the voice in your head, like, oh yeah, you're right, I should wait another 3 weeks, or, so that would be my biggest advice, is to listen to your mind, listen to yourself, and know that you are on the right path. Like, you found this program for a reason, right? Like, you found it for a reason. It sounds good for a reason. So I would just say, don't even think about it too much, honestly. Like, just go for it.
That's a really phenomenal answer. But you just brought one more random question to my mind. I get this all the time.
Uh-huh.
Being someone who went through the program crushing it, you say it sounds good for a reason. For
Hmm.
those that think maybe this sounds too good to be true,
Oh my gosh.
what would you
Yeah.
what advice would you give them? Or what would you say to that?
Honestly, there's so many of us at this point. I mean, it's just, we have a ridiculous amount of people in the program, and we are all seeing the same results. I mean, there's just so much information in your face, because I don't there's just so many of us all having like the same success, like in different ways, and
Keep in
I
mind,
don't know what to say.
keep in mind, now that you're saying it's just so many of us, but earlier you just said, Jaroid, you should go reach out to
Yeah.
every person one by one. Take a
Yeah.
day to go do that.
Yeah, that's why I said it will probably take you a while, but it is a lot of us, and I feel like the information is there for you. You can reach out to any of us. All of us are very happy to talk to other people as well, but I mean, it's all genuine. I personally don't have anything to like hide or anything like that. So I would say the information is there. It's in your face. It's whether you choose or not to look at it. And that's basically that.
With that being said, I think it was a phenomenal interview. The way you answer a lot of these questions were very creative, and I think it was a ton of value for those watching it. So I hope everybody watching this found it really, really valuable. Thank you, Lexi, for coming on here and having this interview with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
With that said, we're going to end it here.
Okay. Bye, everybody.